Niccolo di Bernardo di Machiavelli was born in the city-state of Florence in the Italian peninsula on the 3rd of May 1469. Machiavelli was a 15th century Italian Renaissance political theorist and was the third son of his father Bernardo, who was a lawyer and an educated humanist. Therefore, Machiavelli received a very good education and obtained the position of a secretary for the state of Florence as his first job at the age of 29. Florence, at this point, was ruled by the Medici family. However, around the time when he got his first job, Florence began to go through decades of political turmoil. The Medici family were expelled in 1494 after having ruled for 60 years. At this point, Florence became a republic. In 1501, Machiavelli got married to Marietta Corsini, and they would go on to have 6 children. In 1513, the Medici were reinstalled by the Spanish, whom Florence had surrendered to the previous year, bringing an end to this young republic. That November, Machiavelli was dismissed from his post and arrested for conspiracy against the Medici. He was imprisoned for 22 days and was tortured. He was released 4 months later and went into exile in Sant'Andrea, which was a few miles south of Florence. This is where he would write his most famous works, The Prince and Discourses. We are often appalled and disgusted about how sly and dishonest politicians can be. However, Machiavelli would argue that we shouldn't think politicians are immoral for being bad or lying to us and being manipulative and deceptive, but rather these qualities are beneficial to a state. Machiavelli argued that it's impossible to act as a good politician and a good person at the same time. Machiavelli believed human nature was imperfect and contributed to why being a good politician and a good person was impossible. Machiavelli said that rulers had to be realistic in their morality and cannot have moral fantasies and have to have realism because of the state of human nature. He said, "One can say this in general of men. They are ungrateful, disloyal, insincere. Love is a bond of obligation which these miserable creatures break whenever it suits them, but fear holds them fast by a dread of punishment that never passes." If leaders pursue moral goodness contrary to the state of human nature, they will not succeed. And he believed acting badly will take care of men who act bad, obtaining their order. The laws of the state had to be good, and had to be well defended from people who disobeyed them. Machiavelli even felt that people who went against the state's virtues and rules had to be eliminated and even killed. This was because it would provide defence against enemies from inside the state, giving a warning to the dissidents. Machiavelli said that a state would fare better, not with somebody who is kind and compassionate, but somebody who has a dark side to them, using underhand tactics and being a ruthless leader. This was how a state would be defended and become enriched, which was the ultimate goal for many political leaders at that time. Machiavelli argues that kindness is a good virtue to live by as a normal person, but a state and its people would want a leader who is effective and ruthless. Therefore, this may result in darker deeds being called upon to instigate this. However, Machiavelli says that there needs to be an equilibrium. People should not think that the leader is soft and tolerant, but neither can they do something which leads to a society disliking him. However, he admits that if it became between the two, of being loved and obeyed or being feared, he would say that the leader must err on the side of terror, because this is what reinforces values in a society and keeps people in order. Going back to the quote, "Fear holds them fast by dread of punishment that never passes." Backing up this claim, Machiavelli appeals to the actions of Caesar Borgia. Borgia held his power in Spain via ruthlessness and fear tactics. This helped bring forward the state. Often, after conquering numerous cities, he would execute his own mercenaries after their task was done. Borgia would appoint a mercenary to keep the town in order, so that there was no possibility of a revolution. However, Borgia himself would then execute that mercenary to show who really was in charge. Christian values stated that leaders must be peaceful and generous, tolerant of all individuals. Being a good Christian was the same as being a good politician. Machiavelli, however, says that Christian ethics is not something which bodes well with the required qualities of a ruler. To back up this argument, he gives the case of Girolamo Savonarola. He was a Christian pastor who ruled Florence in 1494 during its short time as a republic, and he promised to make Florence the city of God on earth. He managed to lead Florence as a peaceful and honest republic. He was a Christian ruler who was generous and tolerant. However, Machiavelli said this didn't bode well for a long-lasting regime, which came to pass as Pope Alexander had his henchmen capture and torture Savonarola, hanged him in Florence, and burned the body in front of a crowd. Machiavelli said this is what happens to the nice guys in politics. Machiavelli is associated with the quote, "The end justifies the means." This means that there is no objective morality in politics. As long as the actions are for the preservation of the state's stability, the action itself did not matter, only the consequences did. However, he did say when possible that we should avoid committing bad acts. Machiavelli also devoted a large amount of the prince to the way armies were run. Around Machiavelli's time, leaders were using mercenaries and auxiliaries to win battles. He felt these two types of soldiers, especially auxiliaries, were very unreliable, as they weren't the ruler's own armies and were being loaned by other regions, and there would be the possibility that they wouldn't carry out commands that a native army would. Mercenary armies do not truly have any loyalty to any state and could refuse to do things which would seem not worth doing. An auxiliary, on the other hand, has loyalty to another ruler, going even further than a mercenary. They have preferred to lose battles with their own forces than win them with others. No true victory is possible with alien arms. Instead, Machiavelli thought that the state should create their own army or militia. A good example of this was Sparta, where the citizens agreed to be citizen soldiers as well as citizens of the state. Machiavelli believed that states were either republics or principalities. Depending on the way a leader had risen to power, determines how secure their grasp as leader of the principality was. A leader who was well advised and hereditary was stable in his power, because of tradition and customs. If the leader was overthrown and they were hereditary, they would quickly bounce back into power, like the Medici of Florence. This was because leaders who had gained power via conquest would make people restless and upset. The ruler would need to have a substantial army to keep order. Machiavelli also believed that if people wanted political change, they would soon regret it, which is also partly why hereditary princes could quickly regain power. In 1527, Machiavelli was denied a post with the new Republican government after the Medici was overthrown because of his links with the family. Machiavelli died later that year. Machiavelli's legacy lives on to this day. He even has an adjective named after him, Machiavellian, which cements his legacy not just in political philosophy, but also in the English language itself. People often described as Machiavellian use underhand tactics, such as Richard Nixon, who resigned as president in 1974. He authorised a break-in and wiretap at the Democratic National Committee headquarters and spied on the Democrats at numerous conferences. This is what can be described as Machiavellian. Richard Nixon felt that his policies were the best for the United States, and he thought that this would all consequently lead to a better state. Of course, Machiavelli's theory is very controversial, and it seems as if he legitimizes bloodshed and immorality for a leader, and terror. In modern day society, this has been widely unaccepted, and its prince has often been dubbed a handbook for tyrants. However, it seems as if Machiavelli was a product of his time. Throughout his life, the Italian city-states were going at each other constantly, month by month, day by day, and they would ruthlessly use their powers to gain control of the state and the order of the general public. And this is perhaps why his theory is so pessimistic. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and like and give this video a share. If you want to watch my previous video on René Descartes, then click on the link in the description. Thank you for watching.